Hey everyone, welcome to the curator call for April 13th. We've had a really great week, and it has been awesome to see us starting to get more into a flow. Um, I appreciate everyone who's been shifting their conversations from DMs to public channels. It's been really nice to see people helping each other out on Discord. Really killer. So, for everyone who provided feedback to fellow curators, helping them out with things in Discord. Thanks a lot for doing that. It is noticed and appreciated. And I think that's how we build community is we help each other out. So that is super awesome to see. Um, Feels like some really great content has been getting published. And I think there's still a lot of improvements that we can be making to our workflow. We'll talk about some of that stuff today. But it feels like it was a really productive week. Um, Thank you for those that were here last week. We had an open discussion, gathering feedback from people. I think that was super helpful. We've started, incorporating some of that feedback. We're making plans kind of based on that. We're not done doing that. Hopefully, we can have, a little bit more conversation today as well. I appreciate the kind of open discussion format. So if you have things that you want to share in that direction. Let's plan maybe 15 minutes for open discussion today as well. Um, I'm going to give just some high level direction setting at the beginning. I'll pass it over to our tourists to give an update on some of the things that curators have been doing. And then we can talk a little bit about more focus areas and have open discussion as well. Um, so I'm gonna just share. Uh, so I can put my do not disturb. Um, so things are looking quite nice in the app. You may have noticed that we have our latest news, which I like to have on the overview pages of most of the spaces. Um, Looking at the health space, I love to show this to people. Because it's actually really cool. We're still fixing, so some things related to our subspace management stuff. It's kind of in between right now, but we should be getting this fixed. So this guy right here is not the way we would want it to be. Um, but I love seeing, the muscles that we have here are looking really great, and the exercises and how those things are linked. We have great imagery here, and you can see, the related muscle groups and all of this stuff. So, this level of content I think is really great, and things have been looking really good across the board. Um, it's a great job, everyone. Um, I would like to see us a little bit. So, we've been doing this shift to this kind of show, don't tell. And I think we want to start diving deeper in areas, right, that will demo well and will bring people in. One of the big areas is, of course, world affairs, but there's others. Maybe we'll have Adams speak for a bit about some of these areas. So hopefully, uh, I think for the folks that are really into their spaces, AI, crypto, health, um, you can keep at it. I mean, we have some like really great people in health, for example, that are experts here. But I think a big, shift in focus or call, I think is for people who are flexible in the areas that they're working on, to maybe jump in channels, maybe talk to editors, and maybe we can repurpose some folks into areas that we think will be able to create content that we can really push out there. Um, so just kind of a few thoughts on these areas, but would love to get an update from our tourists on some of the things that curators have been publishing.
Okay, so let's take a look. I'll do a quick walkthrough through the current state. So from the last week, a few notable contributions are by some specific curators. So we have the occupational hazards in the health space that are listed right here. Laser exposure, awkward postures, heat stress. Yeah, that's a good thing to track, especially clinical applications, exposure sources, and topics. So having a good data set where we track these is good and can be practical health information. We should link all of the occupations with the hazards, and everyone here should take a look at their vocation and see if do they have any hazards, and to see if they need to make any adjustments or check-ins for that. But so it looks like a good data set, and definitely is a good data set for us to build on top on. It's something that goes really nice into our data that we want to interconnect with some other important work. Rehabilitation therapies. So once the occupational hazard gets the best of us, then we need to rehabilitate it. So we're something we'll be able to connect there. So some of the things that can be used to improve cognitive rehabilitation, that's interesting. So ability to get the best recovery and to rank that is great. So here is some data that is worked on the health space there. So that's for the from the contributors, but also for the health space, I would like to give a quick show of the front page work that we're doing. So on the front page, right now, one of the highlighted topics is exercise, and there's a bunch of data that's been added for the exercise. So we have the list of some of the main exercises right here. And for so with imagery, and for each, we have a lot of information. So for example, for exercise, to me personally, most interesting is the organization by difficulty. So we can sort of, set up our workflows, our workout flows with this. Equipment's needed. That's great. If we can, basically this allows us to query by the equipment that we have and see what exercises are, we can actually do with it. Some classification properties, of course, and muscles. So we can primary muscles and secondary muscles. So if you have some exercise goals, like we can check by muscles and see what are the best exercises to do for those. So so a bunch of them are covered here. So that's a nice front page work there. And also something that we do with all of the spaces, health included, we're sort of leaning in a bit more on the featured tables here. So we can highlight whatever is the focus on what we want to work on, what are the next sort of tasks. So like for health space, we have featured a few people there. That might be like an interesting personality to take a look at, and we'll be prioritizing to use those entities as people entities as an example to set up like good data examples for them, like where they worked at, what's their work experience, what's their expertise, what was the media appearances they had, etc. And this helps us to prioritize of what entities we want to use as a use case to show as an example, so that it would be easier to do bounties for other curators. So that's on the health space. Then a quick show on the crypto space. So we have here add wallet profiles with download links and security nodes. So we have some MetaMask, Rainbow, all of the main Coinbase wallets available on. So where we can, how can we use that? Some links, documentation, is it an open source or not? Key management models, LinkedIn, networks available. Hopefully this information can already help some users to make decisions on, are you really using the best wallet for the use cases that you're using it? So yeah, we have like a bunch of data here. So, and I feel like this is an example of like a good practical data set, like of simple entities that are actually important and relevant. Like a lot of, this is like a very mainstream clear product that is good for us to have and compare. And also curated list of high signal crypto research sources. Okay, this is very fascinating. So the coin metrics, the block research, into the block, consensus research, very relevant to what we do here on Geo, which is a lot of that is research. So having good sources for the research here is great. At the broader project, so this is something that we should be like taking provided services. So what services do they provide in terms of the research? So this is something that we should be building on top of and going deeper into this. Like having good sources for research for any space is it's a gold mine for us. So it's a great contribution here. That's for the crypto. And for the AI, one thing to show, we did some workshopping with the one of the editors, the Ahmed, and AI use cases. This is something that we were looking to make some initial boost for this content, so we can start making bounties. But this one we set up ourselves just like a good as a kickstarting approach here. So some of the general like popular use cases, image generation, music generation, deep research, AI, video generation, coding, and speech to text AI. And we added 3 apps that we consider to be the best right now for each of this use case. So if we do like the coding one, we have Cursor, Claude Code, GitHub Copilot. For deep research, we have like a listed consensus. So some of these apps here. And so this is, I would say, like a good intro to this. And we will then start to participating a bit more in this area. And we do want to use this as a good use case of Geo itself, which is if we can organize specific things that we actually want to use by use cases, that's for all spaces, and then use the upvote and downvote to together start actually understanding what are the best. This has become so practical, and this actually unlocks our own abilities better. As we are participating in the community, we're sharing what works, what doesn't work for us in terms of for these use cases, and we should be able to exchange that information with each other and grow together and make sure that we're using the best tools for the things whatever that we're using for. So that's like another area that we'll be prioritizing and have some examples there. So that's some of the highlights of the content on Geo from the last week.
Looking really good. Awesome. Great work, team. I mean, it really is just getting better every week. So appreciate the consistency. We're at that point in the process here where it's the day in, day out consistency really makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Adam, do you want to maybe give an overview of actually, let's see, do we have Preston on the call? Maybe we do product first if we want to do some product updates.
Absolutely. Just give me one moment.
And this, I think, will be related to, I'm going to plant a little seed for part of the topic of conversation that I want to have, and maybe Preston, you can show a little bit of this as we go as well, is I think it's worthwhile for us to explore empowering curators to basically create their own public spaces that they can publish to. And maybe that's a way that we can kind of unblock folks to move faster, because I recognize that right now, right, we've kind of, I think, created these loops that maybe take a little bit too much time. And I want to try to, one of the big things I think for us to experiment with is, I mean, part of the thesis behind Geo is that you actually should be able to move fast and then curate and improve things over time. And part of that could look like doing things in a throwaway space. Maybe the space gets accepted, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we, move some of the content into public space once it reaches a certain level. So I think what I want is to get some feedback from curators. We'll do this afterwards when we open up for discussion. on things that you could see that you would want to be able to move faster. And maybe part of the solution is to just have you do that in separate spaces and then move it over. So let's see, Preston, if some of our product features might aid in that.
Yep, I'll go over that, or I'll go over some of our new product features here. But one other thing to add on to that is it could even make sense to, start separating things into the proper subspaces and giving curators ownership over the subspaces. And then the parent space, like for example, is health, the exercise type things. The parent space can issue points to the subspace or to the editor doing or to the curator doing work in that subspace, and they can put things into that curator space, and then they can kind of have more ownership over that exercises subspace, and then the health space can interact with them on that.
That
So
would be a really great solution. So yeah, like I think part of this recognition is essentially we started with things quite centralized, let's say. Obviously, we're all here because we believe in decentralization. And so, I think it's part of the evolution of this is maybe progressive decentralization. Maybe we're starting to hit a point where that'll serve us very well. Cool. Yeah,
cool.
pressing over
Yeah,
things.
so to go over some product features, so the few big things to bring up here is we can now reopen edits. So if you submit an edit to a space and that edit gets rejected for some reason, maybe the curator had some feedback or the editor had some feedback for you or something like that, you can actually reopen that edit by either going to the edit, clicking this reopen edit button, or which will then reopen these edits. They're now in my local environment. So I can just hit X on this and then those edits will show down here, and then I can go to what's up?
Right. Importantly, it hasn't automatically been published, and if you need to make fixes to them, you still can. Basically, you
Yep.
can fix whatever was messed up the first time.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. So this is just in your local state now. So if I was going to go to right this entity, I could just search it. And oh, it's okay, here it is. And then I can make edits to this and then republish it with the changes that were, requested by the editor or just to account for why it was rejected. And then you can see that if you just scroll down the list, rejected entities are going to have this little dot, dot, dot here, which is how you can reopen it without having to open the edit. So that was a big one there. There's a few other updates that are going to be coming very soon. So a lot of just things have been fixed, and we added some quality of life improvements to commenting to um, allow you to let's show you here. Allow you to actually or collapse comments. So if you get these big long comment threads, oh, I haven't pushed it actually yet. There's going to be a button to collapse comments so you can read through long comment threads more easily. Other thing I wanted to note is we're going to be doing a big push to improve browsability. So we're actually going to be adding this sidebar here that will have the root, your personal space, your personal home, which will have all your governance utilities in it, and then featured spaces, all the spaces you're an editor of, and all the spaces you're a member of. So this will really help with browsing around Geo and being able to access various personal spaces. Another improvement that I'm going to be pushing very shortly here is the ability to actually link things in block content. So if I want to, I can just type at and then connect to this Elon Musk entity, and that'll create a link to this entity. So if I were to click on that, it'll bring me to that Elon Musk entity. So now we can link things in block content, and you can get there by either just typing at. You can also highlight and link through that, or that's I'll get that fixed. That's a little bit annoying. Or you can click that and then link there. So we'll get this bug fixed there, but get that pushed through, which should be in the next day or so. Um,
You want
and
to show some of the new block types? I don't know if people have seen the latest kind of code and equation blocks.
oh yeah, absolutely. Let me just clear this all right now. Come into here. Okay. Yeah. So if you can now do code and equation block types. So if you click this, you can click come down here into
We're just seeing your editor.
Let's see. Can you see now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yep. So you can come in here and come down to code block, and that's going to introduce code block. You can type in here like you would be able to normally. You can also access it just by clicking three backticks like you could in any normal markdown. And if you're pushing content via the SDK, if you surround something by backticks, it will, or by three backticks, it will create a code block. And then if you want to just have a regular formula, you can do single back ticks, and that will have block content like that. And then we can also add equations using the equation editor. Um, One thing, yeah, here we go. So this is actually surrounded by escaped parentheses is the way that you add it. I think we need to improve this a little bit, but that will add this equation here. So um, those are the three formula, code block content, and just inline code
Sweet.
in text block content.
Looking good. Now, okay, maybe we'll come back to the spaces stuff. So we'll discuss that maybe at the end. Cool. Great updates. Adam, would you like to share a little bit on the show don't tell side?
Sure. Although it might be better to just get people to demo. So on Show Don't Tell, we're kind of working at it on two different angles. One is we're working with our curators who are working on some fantastic projects that I'm happy to share, but maybe some of you guys on this I see on this call will already be able to demo. One of the kind of well, I won't ruin the surprise. I'll let you guys show. I can share a little bit about what I've been doing. I am a non-technical, let's say, curator, but I've been able over the past kind of a couple of days to set up some agents that have really helped me, um, let's say, organize data, structure it in a way that it can be ingested onto Geo, and then build something that is quite cool on it. And today, I'm happy to show that as well. I actually built something that helps kind of understand and synthesize a bit the situation that's happening with the ceasefire in Iran. I thought it was quite a complex situation, and I thought it'd be amazing if to build on top of the news kind of app that we had something that allowed us to ingest a bunch of video content, because there's a lot of amazing editorial video content that's published every day. And video interviews are often a good source for kind of getting expert insights with people having very specific perspectives. Um, Whereas I find news articles to be more like a high level view of the situation. And so I thought, what if I took, six in-depth videos around the Iran ceasefire, used an LLM to extract some claims and organize it in a way that it can be ingested into Geo, and then created a little kind of visualizer dashboard, which helps us understand all of that. And I'm happy to share that if that's of interest. Uh, yeah.
Sure. Also, I mean, I think you're going to share a video soon, so I think we can share that out with the group. I think just on these calls, if maybe you want to summarize some of the areas where you're looking for folks to maybe jump in.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to
Uh,
do.
but, but 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 I do think for these sorts of things, so Adam's working on that. I'm also working on some similar things. I think we want to share these kind of cookbooks and recipes with folks so that they can repurpose it for their own use cases. And I think, having these sorts of things where, we're automating publishing interesting knowledge, creating visualizations, posting that out. I think we'd love to see more of that. So I think, yeah, the one Adam's doing is going to be a really great example, and we'll open source it and share it with folks so that maybe you can do some similar things.
Yeah. And as a reminder, we have a resource. I'll share the link in the chat again. This is a link that kind of we're updating quite frequently. We're adding ideas, and it's kind of a space where we published a lot of different, expert bounty ideas, which are kind of small projects that people can work on independently, proactively to build something that has a concrete use case.
That's right. That said, we've then also had a much more narrow list that we did together. And I think we want to start with the highest priority areas. So let us package that up and share it with you guys so that you have an up-to-date, condensed priority list of things that we want to focus on. So we'll share that with you soon. Cool. One thing I'd love to show is so I saw this tweet just today, which I think is exactly the sort of thing that we would love to see. So this guy, Johnny FSE, published this thing that he created, courtwatch.us, right? It's a free public database for American citizens who deserve safer communities. And you can track judges. He's starting with Orange County, Florida. Now, this is crazy, 12.8 million views. And so I think this is exactly the sort of experiences that you can create pretty easily these days, but this is a private database that he's running. I guess he's opening it up, but it's, a siloed data set. It's coming from public records. You can search, for the judges. There's 19 judges tracked and 211 cases, and just a nice little visualization. And you can kind of, see here these different cases, the defendant, the charge. So it's a table you can, anyone who's been curating data on Geo now, I think could see exactly how easy it would be to create something like this on top of Geo and then a little custom UI. But the fact that you could probably do something like this in a weekend, and then this got 12.8 million views. So nice to see these sorts of things and to even look at okay, what are the things that go viral online? But of course, as we do this stuff in an interconnected way, it's going to grow and grow in value over time. It's not like a one-off. So maybe some nice inspiration to see the sorts of things like this that we can be doing. I know we're already doing a lot of cool things in this direction, but thought I would share this one. Cool. Should we open it up now for conversation, or do we want to maybe we can do a quick check-in to see if anyone wanted to demo anything today so that we could leave room for any demos. If you wanted to demo something, maybe you can post in the chat. And we'll look at the list so we can actually make time for demos. While people are doing that, let's start opening it up for discussion. So thanks everyone for the high quality discussion last week, for implementing some updates, and how we're working with each other in the Discord. I think reminder of some of the things that we've been discussing is, we want to take some of the stress off of the editors. The editors have a lot of different responsibilities and things that they're doing. One thing that maybe we didn't share last week is we've been asking them to get a little bit also back to content creation, because there's a lot of content that we want to be organizing. And so, they're splitting their time between creating kind of original content and reviewing other people's work. What we'd really love to see is more people kind of reviewing each other's work, helping each other out. And we want to get rid of these kind of, centralized bottlenecks. A few thoughts in that direction is, one, for the public spaces. So we do want to keep the quality high, and we have a few of those top level spaces. And I think, it's good to maintain a high quality bar there. But something that I think we want to play with a little bit is how we can lower the barrier to entry, allow for experimentation. In some ways, we could say, be less precious on perfection and then, edit things once they've even been published and fix them up and improve. So I'd be curious to just start a conversation on this. First to see if anyone has initial thoughts on that, and then maybe we can, discuss some ideas that we could try to see if we can unlock people to move faster. Any thoughts on that initial frame? And part of my feeling, this is a community effort. We're going to be figuring this stuff out as we go, and it's going to be a lot of experimentation. Part of my initial feel is, right, there is this tension, right, between the curation and kind of the openness. But I think like the reality is we're not going to be able to tightly control this thing. As we open it up, right now we're, 300 people. But as we open it up, a few thousand people, like there's just no way we're going to review every single thing and like stop people from publishing whatever. Like people are just going to publish. Now, again, not to the public spaces, but to the subspaces. So like I think there's a chance that things are going to get a little bit messy to start. And then part of our process is how to like clean things up as we go. Now, part of the issue is we have some of the systems that we need in place, but not 100%. And that gap is going to cause some issues in the short term. But I think it'll also encourage us to fix those issues, and then we'll get to a place where we can like sustainably grow and deal with that. So what that looks like, I think, let me go back to here, is so there's a few issues, obviously, when people publish content that's maybe not perfect. First of all, they're not going to be using the right properties. We're going to need to fix it. Honestly, and especially at the scale that we're doing, most of these bounties and things are maybe, 100, 200 entities with some relations. It's not a big deal to edit those and update them. Of course, so the issue is and there's a little bit of a trade-off. If people publish to their personal spaces and it's bad data, nobody can edit it, right? If they're publishing to public spaces, but maybe not the main spaces, but maybe some other spaces, people can edit it. Now there's a few things that we have to be aware of. So obviously, one is just we're using the wrong properties for things. It's not standardized, and we get drift, or maybe there's duplication in entities. I feel like that's a category of issue that, again, as long as it's in public spaces that people can edit, we can fix it. So probably not these spaces, but maybe some other public spaces, it should be totally fine. The other thing that we'd be worried about is, we could call it like pollution or something, right? So if I'm looking for anything, right, there's a bunch of stuff in the search. Now, right now, we include I'm actually not 100% sure on the current state of our full text search right now. Preston, do you know if we're excluding non-public spaces or what the current setup is there for which spaces are included in the global index?
Right now it shows
Yeah, I think
everything.
it's only including the canonical spaces at the moment.
No, yeah, I think so. This might actually be causing issues. I don't know if you're tracking. We need to we need to update the UI, right, to hit the multiple spaces. So let us kind of show you some of what's happening behind the scenes, and then you'll have a better understanding as we make changes in this area. And
If you will type in Google into the search and scroll down.
So there are
See.
some personal spaces here.
Mm.
So let me describe this general area and where we are on this journey. So, the big question, of course, is whenever you're searching for entities, you want to have good, relevant, high quality results. Now, over time, a lot of that is going to come from scoring. And now that we have upvote, downvote, that's a starting point to use for scoring. There's other things that we're going to be adding, publishing rankings and other features that will also help produce better results and better scoring in these results. Now, anyone can create a space. And what that means is that they can kind of pollute the namespace. So like this is not a high quality entity probably, or maybe it is, but maybe it looks like there was some duplication and you wouldn't want there to be duplication. So part of what we do when we create this kind of global search and this global index is we make a decision of what spaces we want to include. And at the beginning, that was all spaces, right? That includes public spaces that people create, personal spaces that people create, and that's going to get really noisy. And so what we have is a concept of the canonical graph. And the canonical graph is composed of all of the spaces that have a trust relationship to the root. So this here is the root space, and spaces can now have relationships to other spaces. So one thing you can do is set the topic for a space. So let's say, I'm in the AI space. So there's an AI entity, and this is the home space for that entity. So what I would be able to do is, set the topic. And right now the space already has a topic. So here's the current topic is AI. So that's good. That's what we want. Let's say that, in the course of operating, actually, we saw that this AI space was starting to specialize, and it's not actually a general AI, but it's actually, image generation or something. I could propose to change the topic to some other entity, and now this space is an image generation space. So spaces can have a topic, right? 0 or 1 topics. You can add subtopics, and that creates this kind of subspace relationship. So we're working on fixing this up right now because there's a few things that were a little bit funky, but here in the health space, basically what I can see is subspaces. And here we have exercise. So what this is essentially exercise is a subtopic of health. So you have a topic hierarchy, right? Exercise is a subtopic of health. And then what you'd see here is the top space for the exercise topic. If I click on this, it would take me to the top space of the exercise topic. So this is how we form essentially a hierarchy, right? A topic hierarchy with spaces and subspace relationships. Now there's an interesting thing because what you want is competition, right? We may create an exercise space that maybe looks like this, but maybe there's a totally different school of thought on how exercise should be done and organized. And people look at this, are like, no, this is all wrong. We want to create a better exercise space. And so what you would have is several spaces that are competing to be the best space for this exercise topic. And you'll be able to see those. So this is an example where like we could create other spaces that aren't these canonical spaces, empower people to publish content to those, competing spaces. It's kind of decentralized in that way. Now we can move content back and forth. But this is something that we could start to do as we introduce more spaces and these and these hierarchies. The last thing that we have here is basically these space relationships. I think we're going to change the name of this menu item here, the space relationships, but that's what it's called now. And what you're doing is essentially you're extending trust to different spaces. So this is not just to a topic, but to a specific space. And so what this means here, you can see that basically the root space has verified these 5 spaces. And then this one is pending. And so in the future, you could imagine like the verified spaces, for example, as being maybe a criteria to be eligible for rewards, right? When we have our incentives in place. And it can also be used kind of for the search. So if there's basically what this does is it creates a web of trust because you have the root space has verified these spaces. Now the health space could verify, subspaces and spaces that it knows about. Those spaces could verify other spaces. So it's not centralized. It's not just this space that's verifying all these spaces. It's creating a web of trust that moves out. And so this stuff, it's not all fully integrated into the search. It is partially integrated into the search. Now, one of the issues that we need to solve for and fix is, let's say you just created a personal space. So say I'm here and I'm trying to make some changes. Now, let's say that I haven't been verified. I'm not part of the canonical graph yet, right? I'm not a member of the space. That's another thing that brings you into the canonical graph is if you're like a member of a space. So, most of you are now members of spaces. So that means that your personal space is already part of the canonical graph. I guess that's why it would show up. That's why actually maybe why this showed up, because as long as Bernard is a member of a space, he's part of the canonical graph. And that's, I guess, yeah, that's why it shows up here. But what you would want is, even in this case, you need to be able to work in your local space. And let's say, you just created some content and then you're looking for it. You have a table, you want your local entities to show up in your search. And so what we really need to do is make sure that you're querying both the public graph as well as your personal space and merge those results together. And that way, even people that aren't part of the canonical graph can get started, right? You can create your personal space, you can get it looking good, and you can request to join a public space or get verified and become part of the global graph. So hopefully you were able to follow all of that, and it makes sense as part of how we're going to be growing and scaling, trust in Geo. And what that allows us to do now that we kind of have this ability is, I thought that was going to, I thought I was hitting this up here, is you can create spaces. So not sure if you've seen this, but okay, this guy down here creates an entity. This guy up here allows you to create a new space. And there's different types of spaces. Now, I think we need to do a little bit of fixing up on our templates here, but it's probably already good enough to start. So there's different types of spaces, which mostly impacts, well, the initial governance. So basically, whether it's a public space or a personal space. And it also controls the template that's used to set up the space, specifically like the tabs. Now, you guys can edit those tabs, you can change things around, but it just gives you like a nice little starting point. Let's say that, I wanted to create a space for physics. I can come here, and initially what happens, see, when you're searching, is when you're putting something in, is it looks to see if you can find existing projects. Now, I think we need to update this right now. This is filtering to just show projects, and it should not be doing this, projects and people. It should really be for any entity. So we're going to update this. But so if there's already a physics entity, you'd want to choose that you're creating the space, or basically this would set the topic to physics. And then you can create that space. So I think what we should do is we should start experimenting with creating a few more public spaces. and have people like publish content directly to those spaces and then get review from people maybe after it's published. The other thing that this will do is it'll make it so we're not just like throwing CSVs around. I don't think that scales. I know, previously we're throwing CSVs around in Discord, in DMs, now maybe even in public channels. But if people want to get their stuff reviewed, probably the best way is to create a public like space that you could also invite people to be members of that space. Use like the CSV import or however it is that you're publishing content to that space. Get people to review it in Geo. You can post a link to the space in Geo. And I think that'll be a much better way to ask for feedback and get reviews and hopefully to move faster. So there's one suggestion, but I'd love to open the floor for people to share maybe what they see as being some of the pain points that are preventing them from moving faster, and if something in this direction might help alleviate that.
Seeing a few people on the call that maybe I can poke because I know you guys have been working on stuff. Rather, you had some interesting, questions in the chat. I know we also spoke quite recently, and you have some great projects you want to work on, and you already have experience in, knowledge management platforms. Anything on your end that could help you go faster? Where do you feel like you're making good progress?
I'm currently like knee deep in the messy human coordination bit of just kind of convening people around Geo Protocol and like making use of it in sort of the regen knowledge commons space, which is itself really knee deep in like Obsidian and Quartz and a lot of homespun hacky solutions. So yeah, just trying to meet minds around the subject. But we're also in the open civic community. We're doing a knowledge hackathon this weekend, so we'll have stuff to show after that. If anyone's interested, I'll toss a link to it in the chat. You can check it out.
Super cool. One question, as you're trying to convene people, do you think you would benefit from our community calls feature?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's like on the roadmap with one collaborator. We're working on a very niche knowledge space, but I don't think we're at that stage yet.
Got it. Yeah. When you're interested, I think, up until now, basically, we've just been working in, those four spaces. But now that, I think we're at a place where we can start to invite people to create more public spaces. You should be able to do something like we already have with our public spaces. So I think it's getting a lot smoother. I have to log in here. I know that the last few weeks, we've had a few different issues with the community calls, dropping out and stuff. But my understanding is that it's getting a lot more stable, and so would appreciate continued feedback from folks. But one thing we have is in the Curator app, basically for any public space, you can create a community call and set a recurring time frame. You could say once a week, right? So you could have like a regen space, and you could have a weekly regen community call. People can add it to their calendar, they can join, and might be a nice thing to get going at some point when you're ready. It did bring up another thing, which is so you said you guys are using Obsidian, which is something that we want to prioritize. A lot of people are playing around with Obsidian, and I think we need some good two-way sync tools to and from Obsidian to make it really easy to just kind of publish maybe your part of your existing Obsidian graph onto Geo. So if you're messing around in that area and something like that seems like it would be useful, please let us know.
Nice. I'll kick the idea around the group. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Mhm. All right. Any other feedback from people who, I mean, I could try to pull up where it was in Discord, where somebody over the weekend was basically saying, hey, I've been working on this thing for like a month. It's been a lot of back and forth. I feel like if it wasn't so much back and forth, I could be producing a lot more content. So, curious if there's anyone on the call that feels that way and what they think of maybe the suggestions I shared on the call today.
Good question on how are we moving the content from these newly created public spaces where it's for reviews to once they're reviewed to the canonical spaces?
It's a good question. I think we need to experiment a little bit. I mean, one thing we can do is have tools if there's like, some edits, like maybe what we could do is like select a few edits and then say like publish to space or something like that. Maybe that would be a good way to do it.
Yeah, probably the simplest way, if we don't want to do like a lot of feature work on that, is we take a look at the content on that space, and we can say if it's good, say please republish to the one of the canonical spaces, and we're happy to approve.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe like
we can definitely try to, put features in place and make that easier. And it shouldn't be that hard to have checkboxes on edits and then to publish. It seems like that would be easier, I would guess, for people.
and then the question: so, what would be the next steps to get this start using? Do we have a time when we want is it ready to go, or is there like a time when we want to sort of launch it? And probably we need like a quick doc that we can send to curators of how to do this, like sort of step by step.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just kind of ready to do it. So what I would say is the next time someone's looking for feedback for content that they don't feel comfortable publishing, let's just encourage them to create a space and publish it there. So let's just be watching the Discord and we can do it on an individual basis. And I think the main point is just that we make this the way that we review people's content going forward.
Okay, sounds super good. So we have a bunch of active sort of work on Discord right now, so we can start moving that to
Now,
this
my
approach.
sense is that most people that are active are already getting comfortable publishing. So if you're already comfortable publishing, probably like you're just publishing right away, you're getting reviews, and that's going well. So I think for probably the top, 80% of active curators, or I mean, whatever the percentage is, probably the existing workflow already works well. I think where this becomes the biggest issue is for folks that are still, getting um, their lay of the land, and so I think yeah, in those cases maybe we try this process. Cool. All right. Well, I think that was a really great discussion, and hopefully a good solution here. Let's see, maybe to bring us home, Adam, do you want to maybe share your short list of the higher priority knowledge domains? I'm not sure if he's still there. But okay, I think things are looking super great. I was honestly super impressed by the demos that Arturo shared today. So looks like people have been off to having a really productive week, creating really interesting content. I myself am loving diving into this stuff, so it just keeps getting better and better. Um, Hopefully you've had a chance to check out Geo News. There's great content getting published here every day. I think we don't yet have people that have been diving in to like edit the content in the spaces to improve where there are issues. So if anyone wants to dive in a little bit more as you see things, we're going to be posting more, stories from Geo News. But if you see anything that's off in the related entities, related projects, topics, anything like that, you can just open this in Geo and fix it there. Um, and we really appreciate that. Maybe next week we can spend a little bit more time going over the bounties and points. I know we're going to be cleaning up a lot of the bounties to reflect our latest priorities. So let's spend some time next week going over that. But otherwise, keep up the conversation in Discord. It's been really great having public conversations in the public channels. Hopefully everyone has exciting areas to work in that they're enjoying, and just keep up the great work. So thanks everybody, and have a really great week. Cheers, y'all.
Bye.